The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. So it's 1 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Thank you so much for coming out today and joining us for our Beat the Multilingual branding battle. So I'm just going to jump right into it. Here I have for you three numbers. I have 33 million, 16, and 3. So what do these three numbers have in common, and why are we here talking about them today? So first of all, we have 33 million is the total dollar amount of what a single company lost in sales in one single month just from changing branding on their packaging. So all they did was eliminate some of their iconic coloring and as well as attempt to go for a more modern design. And in one single month, that cost them $33 million of sales. So that being said, only 16% of the nation's top brands are recognized worldwide. So that's not even 16% of all companies in the United States, or it's 16% of the nation's top leading companies, and that's 3/4. So that's less than 3/4 of the top companies of the United States are unable to market efficiently outside of the U.S. And on top of that, only about 3% of those companies are recognized in more than 7 other countries. So as you can see, not only is keeping your branding consistent important, as we saw in the first number, but it's also important to recognize that it is a very challenging thing that we're trying to do here. Ensuring every office in every country that you're marketing to is abiding by your marketing guidelines and rules is not something that's simple. So how can One2Edit help you do this? And this is what we're here to talk about today. So I would like to start off with a case study. So with this case study, Siemens, they're one of our customers, and it's a multinational conglomerate. So when One2Edit stepped in, they were at a point where they had no centralized localization office, and within that, they were also trying to localize to 160 different countries. So that's 160 different offices producing their own sales content in 160 different locations. The level of control that they had on their branding and their own sales content was minuscule, and it was hard to harness. And that being said, they also had over 2,250 pages of content that they were trying to translate, all while doing that by copying and pasting. So if any of these problems sound something that might be familiar to you, don't stress. Know that there is help out there for you. With all of these complications and challenges, Siemens was still able to cut their review time by 75%. So let's look at this on a little bit of a smaller scale. So here you can see 3/4 of their review process was entirely eliminated, which resulted in them being able to eliminate 3 to 4 days out of their review. So now they were able to start their review process 3 to 4 days later. It's a lot easier. It's a lot more simplified. And cost-wise, they were able to eliminate 2/3 of the cost that they were spending. So Siemens is now spending 1/3 of the budget that they originally were before One2Edit was implemented. So that's huge. And in a dollar amount, that was $66 per page was eliminated, and also $400,000 in brand savings. So total, by implementing One2Edit, and we're not even talking about what you're going to then gain by your sales going up once your branding is more consistent. Just by implementing the One2Edit, they were able to have $400,000 in brand savings. So how can we help you do that? And that's what we're here today to do. So with me today, I have myself here. So I'm Stephanie Toomey, and I'm the Business Development Manager here at Rockant. So any questions or comments you have about the webinar, you can contact me about, and you'll see my contact information at the end of the webinar. Also, we have Jerry Hurley here from One2Edit, and he is the Director of Business Development from One.io, who are the creators of One2Edit. And last but certainly not least, we have our very own Andrew Lawless, and he is the wonderful founder and president, CIO of Rockant Training and Consulting. So I'm actually going to go ahead and hand the floor over to the two of them to say a few words. So Jerry, why don't you take the floor?
Great, thank you, Stephanie, and hello, everyone. So, over the last 10 years, many of the world's leading brands have adopted Want to Edit, most recently Microsoft and Daimler, while others like Henkel, Siemens, and Porsche, and a parade of others have been with us for many years. So, the Siemens case study that we've begun our presentation about is available as a follow up from this webinar. We're very happy to welcome Rockant as an implementation partner, and we've already worked with them on a number of successful projects, and I'm happy to be with them here today. Over to you, Andrew.
Hi, everybody. My name is Andrew Lawless. I'm glad you're joining us for this webinar. We are a training consulting company, and as such, we are typically technology independent. But OneIO is one of those technologies that are so outstanding that we highly recommend them when it comes to multilingual InDesign production. So I think that's all. I think you don't want to hear about that. What everybody wants to hear about is and see is that what it actually does. So I just hand over back to you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Jerry, for your kind words. It's always been a pleasure to work with you on all the implementations that we have done. And I do have to say that nobody knows that quite as well as Wendy Chang. So she is our very own Rockant consultant. She's implemented many of One2Edit projects, and she has loads of experience and knowledge that she's going to share with us today. So in a second, I'm going to give her the floor, and she's going to share us her experiences, give us a little demo of what One2Edit can really do. But before we do that, we just want to see, who's out there, who are we speaking to today? So we want to run a poll. On a scale of 1 to 5, and we're going to start this in a hot second. On a scale from 1 to 5, how difficult is managing brand guidelines for your organization? So that's 1 being very easy, 5 being horrible. How difficult is it for your organization to manage your brand guidelines? So while we are waiting for some of those polls to come in, Wendy, you, like I said before, you've implemented many projects. Can you maybe tell us about some of your experiences, maybe a story where you saw One2Edit could really help, or something where branding was a real challenge for a company?
Sure. So we had this customer, and they were working with their country offices to make their marketing materials. So when they send out marketing materials, they usually have a set of rules in terms of their logos, their text, their content, their images. But when the marketing material was being done by one of their country offices, the localization manager didn't really know what was going on. And when the materials finally came back, the logo was nowhere to be seen. And as you know, like the logos are the most important symbol for one company. So they cannot find the logos anywhere. And finally, they saw the logos on a bunch of penguins' bellies. And then, first of all, penguins did not have anything to do with the company. And second of all, logos are supposed to be by its own, as any company would know. Like you shouldn't put it on a penguin, on an animal, or on as a watermark or anything like that. So this is an incident that the company is losing its identity. Like people looking at their materials, they don't really know what they are looking at, which company is it from, and with One2Edit, you can protect your logo. And we're gonna show you in a hot second.
Like once we shared the poll, which we're doing now, and it seems like we had like 86% of people on this webinar voted, and here all of you said it's given a number 3. I'm not sure if you just took the middle path here.
Yeah.
But thanks for sharing. But I think what everybody here on the webinar shows is yes, it has a level of complexity and difficulty to manage your brand globally.
Yeah. So that being said, Wendy, I think I'm going to continue to have you take the floor, and let's see what One2Edit can really do. So we're going to switch over to the demo really quick here.
Yeah, we're just switching to a different application.
Yes. So first of all, we would like to show you how Want to Edit work, and then we will take it from there. So let's assuming I am a reviewer and I log into Want to Edit. For demo purpose, this is in English, but usually in real life, this is gonna be in a different language. As I am moving my cursor, you can see that, well, everything that can be highlighted, you will be able to edit it. So let's say if we would like to edit this text, what we do is that we simply click on the text and the editing window will pop up, and this is where you're gonna type your edits. Oh, and once you think your edits are good to go, you can simply click on the check mark to apply your edits. It is also possible to work with your translation memory in Want to Edit. If we move to our right hand side and click on this little globe icon, you can see that this particular job is connected with Want to Edit translation memory. And there are two German translations being proposed by Want to Edit translation memory. Let's say I am satisfied with the first one. I'll simply click on the German translation, hit apply, and the German translation will appear in your editing window. A local bullet translation, I think it reads well. I'll go ahead and click on the check mark to apply my edits. And right away, Want to Edit creates this German title for you. And if you look at your title, you think, well, further edits are needed because this second sentence should start a new line. What you do is that you go back to your editing window, press enter to create a new line, and then click on apply again. Now you have your German title with the correct layout. The same thing with the image. You are able to edit any images in Want to Edit. So if I move my cursor to the image, and I'll click on the image. So before I click on the image, I would like you to please pay attention to what's gonna come up on your lower right hand corner. That's a warning that we will talk about momentarily. So when I click on my image, the warning says image must maintain racial aspect. If you miss it, we'll have a chance to look at it again. But now let's see, well, if I'm not satisfied with this orange picture because this doesn't fit my culture, I would like to change it to something else. I'll go to the image editor, which just popped up, click on replace, and it's gonna direct me to a folder. I'll click on the folder and choose the images from the folder. Let's say today I like mangoes better because orange doesn't exist in my country. We only have mangoes. So I'll click on mangoes and click on replace. And once I click on replace, the warning will pop up again. So if you miss it the first time, here's your second chance. See, the warning was there. So now I have a mango image. And then I am able to move my mango around, to resize my mango, to make it smaller, to make my mango bigger. But notice that no matter how small or how big I am changing my mangoes, the ratio did not change. And that's what the warning was about. You must retain the ratio in regard to your original picture. Once I think my mangoes are good to go, I'll simply click on apply. Now you have a German title with a mango picture. And as I am moving my cursor around, you probably already noticed that, well, this logo doesn't get to be highlighted. And I am not able to do anything. I can drag it around, I cannot click. If I click on it, nothing happens. That's because my project manager or my administrator already locked the logo, which means that nobody is allowed to make any changes to your logo. So now you're probably wondering, well, we have already made the changes to the document. How do I track the changes? Is there a way that I can track who did what in When to Edit? So let's go to our left-hand side and click on this clock icon. So When to Edit provides you the detailed history of what happened in your document. Let's take a look on what happened on February 23rd. So you can see I created a document at 3 o'clock that day. And if you want to go more detail, let's take this for instance. I added a segment at 3 o'clock on February 23rd. And it even shows you what changes I did. If you look closely to the tool, this is what I added to the document on February 23rd at 3:39. So When to Edit give you a full review of who did what at when, so you don't even lose track of your changes. And as you know, When to Edit works with InDesign files. So the document is structured in the same way as your InDesign file is. If we click on this structure icon, you will see that, well, it's breaking down with text frame, with layers, with graphics. So it is also possible, if you don't want anybody to touch one of the layers, you can lock that layer so your reviewer or your editor will not be able to change anything. But how do a project manager or an administrator decide or define what needs to be translated and what doesn't need to be translated? They will do it in the English Master InDesign file. So now let's go to the English Master InDesign file and take a look. So your English InDesign Master files will be under your projects. And let's choose the one that we were looking at before. This is the English InDesign Master file. So double click and open the file. This is where you're going to exercise your power and have full control over your document. When to Edit allows you to create a separate content group so that you can decide what needs to be translated. So under this content group, if I move my cursor around, everything that can be highlighted will be able to be reviewed, to be edited, or to be changed. So you probably already noticed, well, the logo is not highlighted. And that's exactly why when we were in the language version, it didn't get to be changed. I couldn't do anything on the logo because it's not assigned to the content group. But if we move over to unassigned item and move your cursor around your logo, you will see your logo is under unassigned item, which means that this is not assigned to anybody. Nobody can touch the logo. And it is also possible to set up rules for your content group. What we do is that we go to Settings, we go to Content Rules, and then let's go to Demo Rules. You can see there are two sets of rules. One is for image, one is for demo. Let's take a look at the image rules first. So under image rules, you can do a bunch of things. For example, you can replace your image. So remember what we just did with our orange picture. We replace it with mangoes. And you can even set up in a way that you only want people to go to a certain folder to choose the images from. And also you can resize your pictures. And see, this aspect ratio is checked. So that's exactly why when we were replacing our oranges with mangoes, the warning popped up because you have to maintain the exact ratio. in terms of your original picture. And let's take a look at your content rules for your text. So within your text rules, for example, you're allowed to change your font size. So you can say, well, I will allow all, no matter how big or how small the font size goes, it's okay. Or you can set up a range to say that, well, you can only increase to certain percentage or you can only reduce to certain percentage. And also, if you remember what we did before, we created a new line for the German title. This is because we are allowing hard return in this case, and that's why you can create a different line for the second sentence. And as you can see, there are a lot of rules that you can set up with your content group in One to Edit, and we're just picking out some examples that we saw before in our language version to show you how to do it. And one last thing we would like to show you is the workflow. So let's close this document and we will go to the workflow. So here is a demo workflow in One to Edit. Please note that this is totally customizable, so you can add as many steps as you want. The workflow gives you a general idea about your job. So it shows you a language, so what language it is being done under this job, which step, and who is doing this step. For demo purpose, it's only me, but in the real cases, you will assign to your editor, you will assign to your reviewer. And also, the progress bar shows you how your editor or reviewer is doing within this job. You can keep track on your project. And as you can see from the demo, One to Edit provides you total control over your document. It helps you eliminate any risks of losing your branding identity. With that, I'll give the floor back to Stephanie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wendy. So as you can see, One to Edit does have so many features that enables you to control exactly, how you want your branding to be represented and who has access to making what changes. So now that you've seen the One to Edit demo, we kind of want to backtrack and go back to this poll idea that we had before. And I want to know, how many days do you feel like you could eliminate from your review process using One to Edit? So we're going to open up this poll right now. And while we have people doing the poll, what I want to do is, Jerry, we have you here with us today. So I kind of want to utilize your experience and your wealth of knowledge. You've been, with 1IO for years and years. And why don't you, is there an example that you might be able to tell us, kind of similar to Wendy, that you saw One to Edit really did help a customer of yours, or just?
Sure. So thanks, Stephanie. Well, a good example is the Linde Group. And they, a number of years ago, adopted One to Edit just as they were involved in a large global brand change following their acquisition of BOC, British Oxygen Company. So that involved, for all of the assets of both companies, physical and collateral, significant changes, and they decided that the template-based publishing capabilities of One to Edit would make a real difference to the success of that rollout. So it was a very successful project for them, and we regard it as a great use case of One to Edit in branding.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jerry. Looks like we're still getting a few answers in. I'm going to give you guys 5 more seconds here. All right.
Yes, and so we're closing the poll, and I'm sharing the results right now.
All right. Wow. So it looks like we have an overwhelmingly positive response here. So you feel that you could eliminate as much as 2 to 3 days here, which is fantastic. And as Jerry just kind of brushed upon, Where we're really going to see a lot of that is in the features of templates and the branding guidelines that One to Edit does provide. So I want to just briefly touch upon those one more time and see. Oops. So how you're protecting your global brand is from Wendy's demonstration and personal experience, as well as Jerry's. What we've seen is that you can define the design elements that you want to change or not want to change. And this includes typography, geometry, your logos, which is huge. Your logos are very important when branding globally. As we saw in the company that we began with, they lost $33 million just from changing the color of their logo. And that was in 1 month. So really, logos are a big thing that help your brand become one of those top 3% companies that are recognized globally. And one of the features that One to Edit really aided Siemens in, and that Jerry brushed upon, is that you have the ability to have a straightforward company template for brand compliant collateral. So you can hand this out to your different offices, and it's a standard template, and it can be used however you want. And so another cool thing about that in particular is that you can also pre-approve any alternate images that you might want to exchange for the original one. So as you saw with Wendy's demo, perhaps one country relates better to the mangoes than they did the oranges. You can pre-approve that mango picture to make sure that, instead of mangoes, there's not strawberries. And along with that, you also have the log history that Wendy brushed upon. Enables you to see who made what changes and when. So if anything comes back drastically changed on your InDesign document, you can see who made that change and reach out to them directly. Maybe they had a specific reasoning for changing that, and that opens up a line of communication. So we're going to open up this to questions really quickly, but how do we first get you started? So first, what I want to brush on is that the next step for you is to schedule a free 30-minute scoping session. And there's 3 ways that you can do that. You can go to www.rockhant.com and see the other services that we have and look out how to reach out to us in particular. You can just also come straight to me at my email here, steph@rockhant.com. And of course, also the good old-fashioned way, as always, is to just pick up the phone and give us a call. So I have here with me Jerry and Andrew, and they've been taking note of any questions that we've been getting throughout the session. So I'm going to open up the floor to everybody and we're going to answer your questions now.
Yeah, so Jerry, here's, I guess, one question for you or Wendy. There is a repository for pictures that I can control, right? So who can upload pictures?
Okay, well, there are, of course, implementations that we've done which include fully fledged digital asset management repositories. And those tools, as you all know, come with their own permissions and controls. In One to Edit, it's typically the project managers or administrators who provide and choose the location for images related to each document. And in the content rules, Wendy, you also showed that you can allow users in the workflow to upload documents or disallow if you aren't confident of their choice of images.
What integration capabilities are there with DAM, Digital Asset Management?
Well, the most common, of course, is to share the actual digital assets from the DAM to make them available into workflows using One to Edit. And that will typically leverage our API capabilities, which include system-to-system communications around check-in, check-out, version control, and the like.
And what about integration with third-party translation management systems?
So we've done a number. The earliest initiative we had was using SDL, and there's a very strong integration with their Trados tools. So that's typically built around standardized XML-based formats like XLIF and TMX. And we can also interchange segmentation rules. So obviously, generic tools like InDesign don't really understand segmentation, but with Want2Edit, you can actually use the segmentation rules from your Trados system to segment the InDesign document before creating the translation jobs.
Great, thank you. And then I guess we talked about controlling your brand and design. Where does that happen? Is that on a document level, on a user level? And how much can you actually control?
All right, well, it's more at the document level than the user level because, as Wendy showed, our tools around content group creation, content rules, and the setup of workflow all relate to the InDesign document. And I should mention in passing that a very important capability of Want2Edit is to maintain the InDesign document's integrity. So we're not changing the document, we maintain, in fact, all the render updates that are triggered by the apply button are executed by InDesign Server. So the user control is in relation to how users are added to the workflows, and that may be by name or by groups, or indeed we have a special user that we call the workflow starter that comes into play when you have a set of templates offered from a portal, and whoever requests that template becomes the workflow starter for that workflow. But of course, the steps in the workflow can determine what the review process is for the final published version of that template.
Great. And speaking of InDesign Server, do I need to know my own InDesign Server, and how many?
Good question. So with InDesign, with Want2Edit, InDesign Server is actually part of our back-end provisioning. So it's at the server side. None of the users in the client organization need to have access either to InDesign Desktop or InDesign Server. And as Wendy showed, our interface makes that access very seamless and straightforward. Also worth noting, for those that have asked, the fonts that are specific to each document are uploaded as part of the project setup. It's a simple zip file upload and unzip to make those fonts available. So again, the users only need to have the Want2Edit access via the Flash player on their browser. They don't need to have those fonts on their system.
Great, thank you. So we have a number of questions here that we will address. We will follow up with you after this webinar. We're at the end of already 3 minutes over. But also, if you have specific questions that you want to discuss, send Steph an email, steph@rockend.com, or give us a call, and we'll be happy to sit down with you for a 30-minute scoping session, help you to understand how Want2Edit can help, what your time and resource investment would be. And looking forward to hearing from you, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Sorry for keeping you 3 minutes over, but I appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll speak with all of you soon. Thank you.